to work. You have to truly believe in the magic.
Hey Magic fans, welcome to Let's Talk Magic, an Orlando Magic podcast. So with the schedule dropping yesterday and the Olympic basketball medals all decided, we've got plenty to talk about today. So without further ado, you'll see I'm joined by Gary and Mikey. So Gary, how are you enjoying the summer holidays, mate?
Yeah, all right, mate. All the better for seeing your two lovely faces, you know.
Yeah.
How are you? You all right?
Not bad, mate. Other than the football result last weekend.
I was going to say, are you two talking now?
Yeah, we were always talking, mate. We were both saying we were as bad as each other, and it was, you know...
There was no nasty texts from me, G, was there?
None at all, mate. None at all. But, yeah, no, we wish Sunderland all the best for the season. Yeah, likewise. So... Mr. Clark, how are we, sir? You good?
Yes, mate. Yeah, all good, mate. Fresh off a trip to Liverpool last weekend. Took the 4-year-old to her first ever game to Anfield, which she was all over. She absolutely loved it. And we were driving home, and she goes, "Daddy, I've had a great day. I want to go again." So I spoke to G the other day, and we're going to watch Wales and Turkey in a couple of weeks with you, aren't we? So
we are. So 3 weeks today. So we're recording on Friday the 16th at the moment. So, yeah, Wales, Turkey. So she's had the taster. Now she's going to get the real thing when she goes to Cardiff City Stadium for an international.
Mikey, are you going to turn up still in a turkey shirt, like you were saying?
Yeah, I shouldn't I? Yeah, I might get stoned and go to Cardiff.
ABW and all this type of stuff.
Well, we're just trying to convert her early, aren't we? You know, with Becky's Welsh roots.
It's not happening, G.
It's not happening.
No.
All right, okay.
No,
Wishful thinking there.
She's got a little bit more common sense than that.
Yeah, fair enough. So we're obviously missing Paul, as you can see if you're watching on YouTube. It's his dad's birthday today, so happy birthday to Mr. Bacon, and we hope to have Paul back on next week. So before we get into things, let's just do a quick break to tell us about our partner, Attraction Tickets. They are the UK's #1 attraction ticket and hotel provider for Walt Disney World, Universal Studios, SeaWorld, Disneyland Paris, and many more worldwide popular attractions, including here in the UK like Thorpe Park and Alton Towers. Amongst the deals they're currently offering, I believe there is £60 off a Disney and Universal ticket, which runs for the next couple of days, I believe. And watch this space because the Magic tickets will be coming out very, very shortly, with the schedule having dropped yesterday. So, yeah, we'll keep an eye on our, socials for that because we'll be dropping details as and when we get them. So you can also visit our website, letstalkmagic.com, for all our affiliate links and discount codes, including the NBA store and Fanatics, where you'll get the usual 10% off. So before we get into the schedule, obviously, unless you were living under a rock, you might have noticed the Olympics were on. And the Wagner boys.
The Wagner boys.
Wagner boys.
I love it when Shaq talks like that.
Oh, you do like Shaq?
He's coming around. He's coming around.
He's coming around.
No, when he does that, it's actually quite funny. So, obviously, Franz drew massive criticisms after his performance in Game 7 against the Cavaliers in the playoffs in the first round. So we saw him, again, get hit with similar accusations of choking in the big moment for Germany's semi-final loss to France. Gary, any concerns at all? I mean, he played really well throughout most of the tournament. One of the top scorers in the whole, from any player. So what's your take, mate?
Well, was it a choke job, or was it that he's done really well through the tournament and then he's come up against a good team and they've prepared for France as the first option on the team? And remember when France came into the league, he was being talked about as like the ultimate role player, and he was going to be, the comparisons he was getting weren't as a first option, and now Franz has been treated as a first option. Now, there's two ways you can look at that. One is he's got a max contract, so he's going to probably get judged along all-star basis. Two, is he really being judged fairly when you look at the team that's around him? And in both games, you would say, well, we're looking at the Olympics here, and we're saying he warranted the attention. He got the attention. He was Germany's best player in the tournament. and they came in with a plan for him, which happens with good players. We see it happen all the time. We're seeing it happen to Franz now. And then the other way is looking at it as well is that when he had his choke job, as some people would call it, in the Game 7, the team isn't really set up as of then. Hopefully it's a little bit better now to get the best out of him or Paolo. And he was coming off, again, a pretty decent series before that. So the Magic hadn't got that to Game 7 if it wasn't for Franz Wagner, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
My concern isn't about that. My concern, if anything, is the 3. I just want the 3-point percentage to get to league average again, because I still don't think his 3 looks great, and I worry the longer it's going on, the more of a thing it's going to become, because teams aren't going to worry about Franz, and it's going to make it easier to defend him. So if anything, I would just like to see the 3 ball return to 35-36%. If he gets that, he's going to get over 20 points a game next season.
Yeah.
And then he warrants a max contract.
Why is there a drop-off, though? Why do you think the drop-off is from years 1 and 2, where he was shooting 35-36% from 3?
I have a theory, Mikey, and it's probably not an accurate one, but it's all we've got to go off, really, because there hasn't been much discussed about the why of it.
Yeah.
I think fatigue's been a point, and then I think he's probably got in his own head.
Mental. It's the mental side of it, yeah.
It started off physically, and then with him, because he does seem to be the type, I think both of them are guys who look at their own games and try to improve all the time. I think that's kind of the type of players we look to draft, and I think it's probably now become mental, and we have heard about little bits being said about how Franz really cares, and I think he takes that into games with him. So I do think he's probably putting pressure on himself.
Yeah, but I mean, it was a successful campaign, other than the semi-final and the 3rd, 4th place game, which they unfortunately came undone against Nikola Jokic, who was absolutely phenomenal. And I don't know how he wasn't given the whole MVP, him or Steph Curry. Not to disrespect LeBron, we all know I'm not a big LeBron guy, but I think Curry and Jokic carried their teams a lot further than what LeBron did. Any other thoughts on the tournament as a whole? I mean, Steph Curry was absolutely phenomenal in those 2 games, the semi-final and the final. Nice to see Evan Fournier do well as well, boys.
Well, you're going to root for a former Magic player. You
do.
99% of former Magic players, if they were playing in that game, because we haven't got a horse in the race.
No.
Like if Paolo was playing for Team USA, I'd have probably had more interest in the tournament than I did. I kept more of an eye on Germany than I did on America. But again, if there's a former Magic player on the court, you're going to wish them the best. It would have to be one of a select bunch where I would go, I don't really want to see them do that well.
Yeah, absolutely. And Mikey, you're a Curry guy.
Yeah, I mean, I was lucky to see him in London, wasn't I, before the Olympics started. Yeah, he was superb. What was it? Those 4 threes in a row in the Olympic game, in the gold medal game. It was just superb stuff. It's the reason why we love watching Steph Curry, and it was there for the world to see. But yeah, the Olympics is done now. I'm looking forward to the NBA season being around the corner.
Definitely. But before we just quickly move back to the NBA, obviously we touched upon Paolo Banchero. There's been rumours that he was, on the cusp of getting into the team. Just looking ahead to the 2028 games, which are going to be held in Los Angeles. Hopefully, he's likely to be part of this squad. Do you have a 12-man USA sort of roster you think that are going to get there, Mikey, at all? Or?
I do, yeah. I have wrote one down. I mean, it's a bit like predicting what the lottery numbers are going to be tomorrow night. 4 years times, a lot can change in 4 years.
Yeah.
So the 12 I've gone for, looking ahead, and you can bookmark this for 4 years' time. So I've got Bam Adebayo, Paolo Banchero, Devin Booker, Jalen Brunson, Anthony Edwards, Tyrese Halliburton, Chet Holmgren, Tyrese Maxey, Evan Mobley, Brandon Miller, who I think might surprise a couple of people, Jalen Suggs, and Tatum. That would be my 12. I think AD, Anthony Davis, and Joel Embiid might still possibly be an option at that point. But I just think the two of them have had so many injury problems over the last number of years that do you really see them being part of Team USA in 4 years' time when they're going to be in their mid to late 30s, the two of them? So look, it's the next breed of
it is, isn't it? Yeah,
of American players coming through, and I think that 4 years' time is the perfect time to start turning the key, handing the keys over to the younger players and letting them do their thing. I think Anthony Davis has played his last Olympics. I'll be surprised if he's there in 4 years, and I'll be surprised. It might sound crazy. It wouldn't surprise me if Joel Embiid wasn't playing in 4 years' time. That's not out of consideration by any stretch. And he's a great player. I hate watching him, but he's a great player. But the injuries are going to catch up with him at some point? 4 years' time is a long way away, and that's a lot more mileage on somebody who's got some problems already. So I would love to see Jay Suggs in there in 4 years' time. Banchero's going to be a lock, isn't he? I can't see how he's not going to be. And obviously there was rumours, was it earlier this week, that he was under heavy consideration for this Olympics as well. So as Gary said, we would have all taken a lot more interest had he been on the roster. But hey,
I think the only player player you might not know in the draft next year, he's projected to go number 1, is Cooper Flagg, power forward from Duke. Obviously he'll be year 3 into his NBA tenure after that. We obviously don't know where he's going to end up. I think he might be considered if he has a successful first couple of seasons. But no, I couldn't disagree with any of those you come up with.
I mean, those 12 names, there's some tough. I mean, he's going to have to be one hell of a player to get a 12th spot above one of those players. Like I said, I think Brandon Miller might be maybe a bit of an outside shot, but look, he's shown flashes last year of what he could potentially be as well. I like the look of him for Charlotte. Evan Mobley, I think if he maybe plays that centre role a little bit more for the Cavaliers and grow into that, I think he's a defensive force for them as well. So yeah,
cool, good stuff. Right, so yesterday was a bit like Christmas, wasn't it, when the schedule dropped at 8 p.m. So we will open up the season at Miami on the 23rd of October, with the home opener 2 days later on the 25th of October against the Brooklyn Nets. Both are 7 p.m. tip-offs here in the UK. 7 of the first 9 will be contested on the road. I've just made a few notes having had a quick look through the schedule. Our longest homestand will happen twice with 6 games consecutive between December the 19th and the 29th and February the 21st to March the 4th. The longest road trip is one occasion where it's 6 games. We've got 13 back-to-backs in total, 5 away-to-away back-to-backs, or road-to-road if you're from the States, 1 away to home or road to home, 3 home to away. Gosh, I'm making this confusing, aren't I? And 4 home to home back to backs. So, according to Presidual, yeah, I think I got that. That's the one. The Magic are tied for the second easiest SOS.
Strength of
schedule. Yeah, can't get my words out today. Which they've got at 0.494. They're going to have 11 games with more rest than the opponent and 8 games with less rest than the opponent. The back-to-backs will happen, the home ones in particular, will happen in November with the Hornets and then the Pacers. The first one, of course, is an NBA Cup game, but I'll get onto that in a second. The second being in December, the Heat and the Knicks. January, the Timberwolves and the Bucks, and April, Hawks and Celtics. We have 5 nationally televised games, so that's an increase on the measly 1 that we had last year on TNT against the Thunder. And they will be on the 1st of November at Cleveland, which will be carried by ESPN. On the 3rd of December, which will be an NBA Cup game against the New York Knicks at MSG, which will be carried by TNT. Then we get the Oklahoma City Thunder at home on TNT. 17th of January at the Boston Celtics on ESPN. And our final one, unless we see some shifts in the scheduling, will be on the 25th of February at home against the Cleveland Cavaliers, again on on TNT. Sorry, there are some NBA TV games on there, but let's be honest, we'd rather listen to the good guys on Bally Sports. Just touched upon the in-season tournament games there. So we have 4. These were announced a little bit before the schedule. They will be on the 12th of November against the Hornets at home, the 15th of November against the 76ers, again at home. So it gives us quite an opportunity to hopefully get 2 wins under our belt before we hit the road against Brooklyn on the 29th and the New York Knicks on the 3rd of December. So that's a tough group, and the boys talked about this a couple of weeks ago, so that is going to be tough. So what we thought we'd do is we'd split the schedule into 3 parts. So I'll hand over to Gary. He's just going to run through the first 26 games. So that's the first game of the season until December the 8th. So if you just run through it, Gar, and give us a prediction. I think we've all done a prediction on the 3 quadrants, and we'll come up with how we think the season will play out.
Right, so I'm going to assume that anyone who's watching or listening actually has the schedule in front of them, and I'm not going to read through every single game and bore people to sleep. So if you've got any sleeping issues, I'm happy to take requests and do that on a one-to-one for $50. So I think we've got obviously 26 games between the 23rd of October and the 8th of December. Of those 26 games, it breaks down into 10 at home and 16 away, which is quite a discrepancy, really, when you look at it. I'm not complaining about the schedule because at the end of the day, I know, G, we've had this conversation before. You play your games. You play your games, you play your hand, and that's the hand that's been dealt to us in the first 26 games. It's harder. It's a lot harder when you've got that type of split, 10 home, 16 away. I think the first 10 games are going to be difficult. So I'll look at the first 10 and I could see us getting off to a slow start, possibly going 4-6 in those games. I think Brooklyn, Indiana, Chicago and New Orleans are the ones where I would say we've got to get wins in those. Mm-hmm. We've obviously got a road trip in there. So if you look the road trip up, we've got a difficult one where we've got Chicago, Cleveland, Dallas, OKC and Indiana. And we've got to start that road trip well with Chicago because there is a real possibility of where you look at that, you could drop 4 on the bounce. I think we do match up fairly well with Indiana, but I do think they've made some good moves. And I think they're a team who are going to be around about where we are at the end of the season. We do have a home stand within there, which I could also see us going 4-1 or even 5-0 on the home stand. New Orleans, Washington, Charlotte, Indiana, Philadelphia. Philadelphia is the tough one. Indiana, one to look at. And then also we've got a hard December at one point where we've got Brooklyn, New York, and then 2 games against Philly back to back. And again, you look at that. Brooklyn have been a bit of a funny team for us, but we've got to win that one and then try and maybe split that. All in all, the first 26 games, I could see a slow start, which is not what I want. I like to get out the gates quick. So if the Magic goes 6-4 or 5-5 in the first 10, I'd be quite happy. But in the first 26, I could see us. I hate doing this, G. I really do, because there's injuries, there's form, there's so many things that could happen. I could see it as it stands right now on paper being 14-12.
Okay. It's not too far from where I've got it. Where are you, Mikey, in terms of the prediction for the first?
Well, if you look at those first, was it 26?
Yeah.
There's 8 games there against teams you expect to beat. You got your Brooklyns, Chicago, Washington. I would include Charlotte, although I think they're going to be better this year. Yeah. Detroit are in there. Brooklyn again. So there aren't many easy games. And obviously last year, the Magic's strength last year was beating those teams that you expect to beat. Where we really came unstuck was against the winning teams, against the teams that made the playoffs. Like we didn't have a good record. So I think if we want to see an improvement in the first third of this season, then I want to see us pick up more wins against those teams that you're going to be competing against. So those teams are going to be in and around like Cleveland, Indiana, Miami are going to be in and amongst there as well. Philadelphia. You've got to win those. You've got to win a larger number of those games this year. I don't think we can just rely on beating the bottom feeders this year. And if we are serious, like Paolo was interviewed today, there was a clip of him going around on Twitter saying he expects us to be a top 4, top 3 seed. We've got to pick up wins against those teams in and amongst us. Because look, that tiebreaker against Cleveland, that was the difference between possibly getting home court advantage in the first round and winning that 7-game series. But yeah, I think it's hard to put a number on it. I just think there's similarities in this schedule. I know we're going to go into the rest of it in a minute, but there's similarities to last season as well. Like we've got, I think, 16 of the first 25 games this year are on the road. Last year, 8 of the first 12 were on the road. And I know we're going to talk about the end of the season as well, but 11 of the last 19 games in this schedule were on the road, and 5 of the last 7 last year were as well. So there is some similarities. And look, I actually don't mind us playing a heavy road start to begin the season. One, because we're not there. So we're not, like G was talking about earlier, that we're not planning a trip over and hoping for so many games. But no, I think in terms of chemistry, the team bonding together, which they did really, really well last year, I think actually playing on the road might actually suit us next year. And rely on defence, like our strength's obviously defence, then I think that travels on the road, and that's going to be a massive thing. Look, there's a few tough stretches in there, like Gary's already said, at Cleveland, Dallas, OKC, and Indiana. Like, that's a tough 4-game road trip.
And a back-to-back in there as well.
And a back-to-back in there as well. I think if you can walk out of the first 25 games, I think if you're anywhere in sort of like the 14 to 16 win range, I think I'm satisfied with that sort of start. But yeah, you've got some early, like there's the West Coast road trip. You've got the Clippers, the Suns, and the Lakers. You get that out the way early as well, which we did last season too. Yeah, I mean, the pressure's going to be there in the first part of the season because we've obviously got the NBA Cup in and amongst it. There's going to be more interest in that as well. Yeah, the pressure's on, and I think we understand that based off of last season, you can't take any team lightly at any point in the season because one wins could be the difference between you possibly being the 2nd seed this season and maybe being the 7th seed and playing and being a play-in tournament team. So
yeah, every
game matters, and I think they'll stress that to them early.
Yeah, and I think it's vitally important you get off to a decent start because I'm just obviously the ones Gary was mentioning there. You've got the Indiana Pacers 3 times before the 14th of November, so that will decide who gets the tiebreaker. So you've got to be winning those games. You've got the Philadelphia 76ers 3 times before the 7th of December. You've got the Miami Heat 3 times before the 27th of December. You've got the Knicks in there a couple of times. So, playoff positioning and owning that tiebreaker. We know how crucial that was last year. We had it over a couple of teams and we thought, you've got that little bit of more of a cushion. But, looking at the prediction there, I think I came back with 15 and 11 overall would be my prediction. If we came back with that, I'd be happy. Like you boys have said, in and about that, as long as it's not a disaster and you're floating above 500 somewhere, then it gives you a chance to, get into the 2nd and 3rd sort of parts of the schedule with a bit of momentum heading to the end of the season. So do you want to do the second part now, Mikey?
Yeah, so we got, obviously after the NBA Cup finishes, we've got the 6-game homestand. So we got...
Oh, one thing to note there, obviously, there's 2 games yet to be decided. So they will be between the points of where we've broken this. So the last game Gary was talking about was Phoenix on the 8th of December. and then we will re-pick up on the 20th of December. So in that time, if we qualify for the semi-final and final in Las Vegas, we'll obviously be playing a winner of a group. If we don't, a bit like last year, I think we ended up with Detroit and... Gosh, was it Cleveland last year as two extra fixtures?
Might well have been, yeah.
Yeah,
Definitely.
so we'll get one more home game and one more road game. So this is based upon 80 games as opposed to 82, with two to be confirmed. So, sorry, mate. You carry on.
That's all right. No, that's good. Good point. Yeah, so we got Thursday the 19th of December, OKC at home. That's that TNT game. And then we got Miami, Boston, Miami again, New York, and Brooklyn. So it's a tough homestand, but we want to lean on that home court advantage, and they're all teams that we want to be beating there. Then start January, we've got Detroit on the road, Toronto, home to Utah, at New York. Then we got that home back-to-back, what Garrett was talking about earlier. So we've got Minnesota at home on the Thursday on NBA TV, and then the Friday, Milwaukee at home. 2 days later, you got Philly on the road. Philly at home as well. So 3 tough teams there, and then you're on the road at Milwaukee, at Boston, home to Denver. Then you're on the road at Toronto. Then you got a couple of easier games against Portland and Detroit, 2 teams you expect to beat. And then you've got that big the big road trip at Miami, at Portland, at Utah, at the Warriors, Kings, and you finish. They do this every year to us.
Why do we always end up in Denver? Yeah.
On the second night of a back-to-back. We won there last year, so let's hope we carry that on this year. But that is a tough road trip. You hope to get off to a good start in Miami and Portland, but yeah, the Golden State, I think the time's come where I think we're probably better than them, and we should be looking at that sort of game to go and win, it's been a while since we've been able to say that. But the Kings on the road, Denver on the road, those West Coast road trips are always tough, regardless of who you're playing. You've got the time difference and travel and everything that comes with that. And then you got San Antonio, Atlanta, and Charlotte at home, 3-game homestand before the All-Star break as well. So actually, that's quite a nice little 3-game homestand to come home to, because to me, I want to be coming home and going 3-0, looking at that. So yeah, 28 games. I mean, it's good because I think there's obviously you got the road, you got the long road trip in there, but there's a nice mix of teams there, playoff teams, contending teams, but there's also a lot of winnable games in there. You got Portland twice home and away. You've got Detroit in there. You got Utah, who I don't really expect them to do a lot this year, and then you come home to Charlotte, San Antonio, and Atlanta. I think if you're looking at like 16 to 18 wins out of that 28 game slot there in the middle of the season, then I think we're going to be in a nice position going down the last stretch of the season. But what do you guys think?
Looking at it, I think this is of the 3 which G's allocated us as the schedule master that he is. I think this was the toughest stretch for us, and I had us going 14-14 in this stretch, and we've got to be good at beating bad. I think that hasn't got to change this season. We kind of have we had that loss against Charlotte, which was a bit out of character for the Magic in the way the season was last year, but that hasn't got to happen, and it kind of happened in this stretch. And I was making notes this afternoon, but I think it's the 6th of January onwards. We've got a stretch where we've got the Knicks, Minnesota, Milwaukee, Philadelphia, Milwaukee, Boston, and Denver. And that's nightmare fuel. That is a stretch.
This is where perceptions change, because I'm looking at this season completely different. Like, I know that surprise factor's gone with us this year. Like, we surprised everybody last year, finishing as the 5th seed. But if we're serious about taking that jump and challenging for an Eastern Conference place, I don't think any of these teams really want to face us either. Like,
It's not down as an easy game playing the Magic.
No
way.
Like you said, on paper, yeah, they're tough games, but look, we're tough to play against as well, and I don't think anyone's going to want to play against us.
And a few head coaches have said that last season. I think, who was it? Was it Ty Lue? Can't remember now.
The difference is the expectations are there that we want to win, but we're still in that prove it stage, aren't we?
That was our last season. Was our last pressure-free season that we should be having for a long time.
Yeah, I agree.
We've got to be in that position as well, where we have this pressure and we welcome it, because I look at that and I flag that out because I'm like, that's as tough a stretch as you're going to get of games. You know, the Knicks are going to be good. We saw what Minnesota did. Milwaukee, even though there's question marks against the coaching, you're going against Giannis, you're going against Dame Lillard. You know, it's going to be hard. Philadelphia, I think, obviously you're looking at Embiid, but to be honest, as you said, Mikey, I want to test us when we've got their best. I don't want us to be getting injury-free hits. And Boston and Denver are arguably the best in the East and the West. I think OKC would have something to say about that. I just see that as a tough stretch, as a really tough stretch, and I don't think we will, by the way, because I think we'll pull a couple of wins out of that at least, but you don't want to lose all of them. Because that is a very, very hard stretch. So that's what stood out to me on that schedule. I think that of the three that G carved up for us, I think that's the toughest.
Yeah, you're not wrong there, boys. I mean, what I've liked about this team when they've gone on West Coast road trips, especially the last 2 seasons, obviously we started off going out early last season, is it really pulled the team together, and we've always seen that it does that. I've got us going at 15-13 on that stretch, and I'm not going to just go over the same points that you've done, but there's some real tough teams in there, but we've really got to, start getting wins against those just to, push ourselves a little bit further, than we have in the last 2 seasons. So, okay, so the third
So where
part...
were you at with that, Jay? Did you say 40? Did you say
15
500
and
there?
15 and 13.
Okay. All right, sorry
So
about that.
just above 500 there for me, mate.
And I'm saying 16 there.
And I've got 14.
Yeah, so in and about the same. So the third part of the season started on, 20th, 21st of February. So the final 26 games. So I made a few notes here. So 4 of the last 6 are going to be on the road. 10 of the last 26 games in total are going to be against playoff teams. Of the 26, 14 are going to be at home, 12 on the road. There's a couple of back-to-backs in there, which aren't the best. But in fairness, there's a couple of, should I call them cupcake teams? We should be beating these teams, especially if you want to, be advancing. So obviously start at Atlanta, team in transition, should be getting that win. Memphis then come to town, but they're a bit of an unknown quantity, especially with the changes, and obviously they were missing Ja Morant last season. Now, after Washington, you got the Cavs at home, and, we've managed to sort the Cavs out in the playoffs at home. They follow the Golden State Warriors, and then 2 against the Raptors. So of the first 7, you'd be expecting us to win, definitely 5, if not 6 or 7, before we embark on a small road trip to Milwaukee, and then at Houston. At Houston's followed by a home game against the Chicago Bulls. Then we probably play the toughest 2 teams back-to-back in the Timberwolves and the Cavaliers, followed by the transition San Antonio Spurs and the up-and-coming Houston Rockets. Washington then on the road, followed by probably the biggest game of the year for me, the Los Angeles Lakers at home. It's the first game I look for every year because that's the one I want. I know it shouldn't be like that anymore because we're bigger than that, but it's just lovely beating them, isn't it? It really is. So then we get to the latter part of the schedule. Hornets on the home, Mavs and the Kings. Sorry, Hornets on the road, Mavs and Kings at home, followed by the Clippers, Wizards at New Orleans, home against Atlanta, home against Boston, and then we finish in Indiana and Atlanta. So I've got us going in that stretch 17-9. Really optimistic on that stretch. I think that's where we really should be pushing on, getting these Ws. How do you see it, boys?
Mikey, you go.
Boston at home, last home game of the season for the first seed. What do you reckon?
Like it. I like it.
No, I think that's maybe a little bit of a reach.
A bit of a stretch,
but
yeah.
No. But no, you're right. To after the All-Star break, you get Atlanta out the way, and then you got that nice 6-game homestand. But even after that, even the 2 games against the Raptors after that, like at Milwaukee, I'm not worried about that. At Houston's
3 days rest as well between Raptors and Milwaukee.
Yeah. And there's another point. I can't remember if you brought this up earlier. What was there? 13 back-to-backs all season. And I think the Magic are going to be one of the most rested teams throughout all 30 teams this year. So we're going to be pretty well rested going into a lot of games this year. But yeah, Minnesota. Yeah, well, that's it. Exactly. That's what we want to see. Mm-hmm. I think Minnesota on the road is probably the toughest road game that we've got left out of this stretch. Maybe I'm not even worried about Milwaukee. I just think we're going to see what we saw last year, and I think that might go wrong on them as well. I don't quite trust what they've done, but yeah, the Lakers at home, G. Yeah, that's one that we want as well. Absolutely. Look, then you got Dallas at home, not an easy game. Sacramento at home. The Clippers is a little bit more winnable. But when I look at this schedule and I look at the teams that we got, and I just think last year was the first time that we maybe saw the league flatten out more in terms of like the league's a lot more even. Like there isn't. Yeah, last year we had like a clear couple of bottom feeders, and then you had your standout contenders. Like Boston were like head and shoulders above everybody else in the East. But I feel like this season's going to be a lot more even. Like we saw, it went right down to the last game of the season last year to basically figure out who was finishing 2nd to 7th or whatever it is. And I think we might even see a bigger amount of teams that are right in there going into the last game of the season this year. Not just in the East, in the West as well. Yes, there's teams on decline, like the Warriors are in there. We'll see them on the 27th of February. But they're still going to be competitive. They've still got one of the best players in the world. He's not going to want to he's not going to want to tank, is he?
No.
They're still going to want to be competitive. Washington, I expect to be one of the worst teams in the league, but there's still enough talent that they could beat any team on any night. Same with the Raptors. I don't expect the Raptors to do much. I don't think they're going to make much noise in the East this year, but they've still got a really good player in Scotty Barnes, and they've added some pieces around him as well. San Antonio, it's crazy to think it, but I actually think they're going to make a big jump from what they did last year. I think Wembanyama is that good, and we saw it in the Olympics. All right, there was a couple of games where he went missing, but we've all seen enough of Wemby to see. You can see that what they're hoping he's going to become, and I think he's going to really elevate them next season as well. I don't think they're going to necessarily make the playoffs, but they're going to be a tough team to play against each tonight. Dallas again, like they're going to be a contender. The Kings are going to want to have a bounce back year. They were disappointing last season after making the playoffs the previous year. The Clippers are in decline, but they've still got Kawhi Leonard. Like they've still got some decent vets
When he plays.
Yeah, but to me, there aren't really many teams that you look at. There's maybe 3 out of all 30 that you could say, yeah, they're probably going to be. They're going to lose more than they win on any given note. But yeah, I just think, for me, we just focus on us. Like I think if we can finish around where we were last year, 46, 48 wins,
So what did you have as for that stretch, Mikey, of the 26?
Out of the 26, I think I would probably go, what did you say, 17?
17 and 9.
Yeah, I'd probably go 17 as well. What I would like to see, if we could win as many games as we did last year, but we took more games away from the teams in and around us, I think that would be progress. Yes, I know it would probably mean losing against teams that you think, yeah, we should be beating, but I want to see us compete more against those teams like your Boston. Like I want to see us beat Boston twice this year out of 3 games. I want to see us beat Philly 3 times. I want to see us knock them out of the in-season tournament, out of the NBA Cup. I just think I want us to make some noise this year, and that's how you're going to do it. It's not going to be surprising a few teams by finishing 5th. It's going to be beating those teams that people are thinking are above Orlando. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting for sure.
How are you looking, Gar?
A lot of what I was thinking has already been said. Like I highlighted within that schedule that was basically that run of games, start with Atlanta and ending with the back-to-backs with Toronto. I think that's something where we can really leave a marker, to be honest. And I'm expecting things to be tight in both conferences in the playoffs play-in race. For example, if you look at the West, I know Houston was mentioned there. I think Houston will be a lot better this season. Like I think they'll make the playoffs. That's my gut feeling. But when I look at, I still think we should be looking at knocking Memphis off when they're coming into Orlando. Again, I don't think they're any better than we are. I look at Golden State. I agree with what's been said already by Mikey. We should be better than Golden State now, and we should have enough to get by Toronto. The worry is obviously when you've got a back-to-back, it's a bigger ask to get 2 back-to-back wins.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, the games are there to be won. The Magic have got to be gunning for home court, but we've always got to look at things through. We look at the schedule. I look at kind of how are we opening, how are we closing. I think this stretch is quite favourable. So whereas I think we've got a tough stretch and we've got that hard start with the road home split, I could see us going 16 and 10 is what I'd mark down here, which overall would add up to at least 44 wins without the 2 other games being added, which would put us round about where we were this season, or last season as it would be now. And then I look at that and think, okay, do I expect to be in the 44 to 49 win category? Yes, because I do think a lot of teams around us have got better as well. I think we've organically got better and we've added KCP. And then I think Philadelphia's obviously got better. You wouldn't expect them to be as injured. Milwaukee, I think will be Milwaukee. Boston will be Boston. Cleveland will want to be around us. I think Indiana's improved. So there are teams who are improving. That's why I think we'll be roughly roundabout. Hopefully a few games better with home court. 50 wins would be great.
No word. How was your total looking, Mikey?
I think I got to 47 out of the 80.
I got 47 also. 47 and 33.
Just a quick question. I'm just looking through the schedule. How many of these teams do you think have got worse
in the whole league?
Mm-hmm.
I think Golden State's worse. I think the Clippers are worse.
Miami Heat.
The Heat.
Are they worse though?
I think they'll be around about the same.
Yeah.
Bulls.
Bulls will be worse.
Losing DeRozan.
Jazz could be worse.
Mm-hmm.
Grizzlies will be better. I think OKC will be better. I think Indiana will be better. New Orleans should be better, but it's based on Zion again.
But they added DeJounte Murray, so
Yeah.
to me that's an upgrade. Like that's what I'm on about. Like there aren't many teams that have got worse. Like
The Hawks
they're
have
just
got worse.
Brooklyn losing
Worse.
Mikal Bridges. I would say there's 5 teams out of 25. Sorry, out of 30 that have got worse. Everyone else is going to be better than where they were last year.
Who are those 5 you got?
Who the 5?
Yeah.
I can't remember what Gary said now. Brooklyn have got worse. Let me just go through the schedule.
Atlanta?
The Clippers have got worse, losing Paul George.
Golden
No,
State.
I think they're going to be better.
Okay, but they've lost DeJounte Murray.
I don't think it
Golden
matters.
State.
Golden State have got worse, losing Clay. Who's the others? Utah, I think they're going to be about the same. And who's the other? There's one. Washington. I think they're going to be better than they were last year. It might not look it
15
in the win
wins
and loss
last
column.
year.
Yeah, they're not going to win. They're not going to lose more than 15, are they?
Portland.
Chicago. That's the other one. Chicago losing DeRozan, and Vooch is probably on the decline as well. Unfortunately for them, but everyone else has got better for me, which makes it really. It's going to make this season completely. It's gonna be fun. It's not gonna be a predictable season. I'm so glad we've got all those seasons past. Like it's in the past now. Like you think when Miami put the big three together, and you're going into the season and you're thinking, well, we already know who's going to be in the finals. You're playing 82 games, but you still know what it's going to look like at the end of it. This year, I think, is going to be even more open than last year. So that can only be a good thing.
Yeah. So I wrote this. Paul helped me with the agenda, in fairness to him. Bit before the schedule came out, so we just wanted to touch upon some of the league games beforehand. So opening night of the whole NBA calendar, we'll see the New York Knicks at the Boston Celtics, where they'll unfortunately get their rings, and then the Minnesota Timberwolves at the Los Angeles Lakers. No shock there, really, is there? I don't know why the Lakers are on the tally so much for being a play-in team. What are your thoughts on that schedule, Mikey? Anything to it?
No,
same old, isn't it?
I won't be watching the ring ceremony. That's definitely not happening. And I think we're going to see the passing of the torch, Timberwolves against the Lakers. Yeah, I'm not surprised. Look, I think. What was the number? I think the Lakers got 35 nationally televised games this season.
The most out of any team in the whole association.
And I think the Warriors might be second or third. I'm not surprised. Look, it's going to be one of LeBron's last seasons. Steph with the Warriors is still. People still want to watch it. I'm not surprised those two are still top, but it would be nice that. Like there's a lot of talk, obviously, that TNT is going to be losing the NBA rights, and Peacock and is it NBC are going to be taking over next season. It would be nice if the NBA had a change of heart or looked at the league a little bit differently, maybe like the NFL do, where they look at all 30 teams as like this is it's a group collective, like it's the league as a whole that people want to watch, not just watching LeBron James and the Lakers, because we're bored of listening about it.
About 10 years ago, mate.
Yeah. And the rest. But yeah, it'd be nice if. I mean, look, we've got 5 nationally televised games. Personally, it doesn't bother me. we watch every game on NBA League Pass. It doesn't make much difference to us, does it? But sorry, I'm going from tangent now.
Yeah, no, that's fine. So the other schedule that dropped before the main schedule. So Gary, I'll ask you about this. Christmas Day. So the Magic don't feature, but the schedule docket is as follows: the San Antonio Spurs at the New York Knicks. Then it's the Minnesota Timberwolves at the Dallas Mavericks. So that's a repeat of the Western Conference Finals. The Philadelphia 76ers at the Boston Celtics. The LA Lakers at the Golden State Warriors, so LeBron versus Steph, so box office stuff apparently. And then Denver at Phoenix to finish. Will you be tuning in, mate?
I might watch a bit of it. How do I put this? I think from our angle, we don't really deserve to be there yet. I can't say that we should have like a God-given right to be playing on Christmas. After, like finishing 5th in a first round exit, there's no reason why anyone outside of the Magic fan base really would say, oh yeah, let's put Orlando on.
Yeah, that's fair.
I look at it and I see Anthony Edwards as the rule to follow here. So Minnesota's taken a leap. Edwards, you've said about passing the torch, and he's become a star player, a legit top 10 player, possibly a top 5 player on a very good team. And I think that's, if we want to see the Magic player, that's what Paolo's got to do. He's got to become a 26, 27 points per game player. a guy who's getting attention, which he's getting at this fan fest in New York that's going on at the minute, where he's got to have that hype where it's undisputed, where you can't leave the Magic off. And I think Wembanyama's kind of like an out. He's kind of getting the LeBron treatment, whether people like it or not. Wembanyama's that guy for the NBA, and that's why they are playing there. And he's box office. And if I looked at it and said, okay, well, why are they putting Wembanyama? Like, I've got relatives in America, 2 kids, basketball mad, and they talk about Victor Wembanyama. It's Wemby. So, because it's okay, that's what's being shoved to them, and that's what's being given by the media, but that's what they're talking about. So, from a ratings perspective, you're going to put Wembanyama on. I think, jumping on the back of what Mikey said, where we've got the Lakers on opening night, whether we like it or not, there's people who have a loose interest in basketball are going to be interested in LeBron and Bronny. I'm not. I don't care, but you know, like there's a lot of people who are. It's a thing where it's LeBron James is the most famous basketball player on earth, whether we like it or not. He's got the Space Jam thing. He's been reacted to in the Olympics in the way that he was, and his son's playing on the same team as him, and there are going to be people who tune in and are invested in that for however long it lasts. And Phoenix are playing for me because of Kevin Durant. You know, Durant is still box office, he's still that name, and it's probably the last year you're going to have that where KD commands that. I'm not really feeling that game, Denver and Phoenix, but that's why it's on. And I think you were going to ask about who should be aggrieved, G.
Yeah, it was.
OKC.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. I think OKC should be in San Antonio's place, myself, personally.
But OKC should be aggrieved because they actually took that leap.
Yes.
And they've got out the first round. They're a good team. They've got good players. They've got one of the best players in the league in SGA.
OKC and Denver would have been a more fun match out to watch. 100% better.
Way better. But there you go.
Yeah. I think another question I was going to ask was, what do Orlando need to do to get in this club? And you said Banchero to, make that leap. They haven't been on Christmas Day for 13 consecutive times now. How soon do you think that'll be now, Mikey? Next year? A couple of years?
Again, I don't know the lottery results for tomorrow night. I don't know. Paolo's got to be a top 5-10 player. And to be honest, I'm not even convinced that's going to be enough. I think genuinely we might have to make a finals run or an Eastern Conference finals run to be in that conversation. I really do, because let's be honest, Orlando's not a big market. And unless you're going to be one of those top, I don't even think it's necessarily Paolo. I think the Magic have got to be one of the best 3 or 4 teams in the league for them to be seriously considered to be one of those Christmas Day teams. Like, if the Magic make the finals this year, which would be like way above what we all expect this season, I'm not even convinced that would put us on Christmas Day next season. I just think unfortunately, and the 3 of us don't understand this because we're all Orlando Magic fans at heart, and that's like the number one thing. But genuinely, there's a lot of kids nowadays, and the younger generation, all the Generation Z, all that lot, all the millennials, all them. Is that the right term?
I don't know.
I have no idea.
Ask the teacher.
All right, all the millennials out there, the younger generation, they are fans of players. Like, they are fans of Steph Curry. They want to watch Steph. They want to watch LeBron. They want to watch KD. And I think maybe the NBA is just trying to cater for everybody. They're trying to put on matchups, but they're also like Steph against LeBron on Christmas Day. It's more about the players as well. So, yeah, we're about the teams, not the players, but look, they got to cater for everybody, I suppose. But yeah, if I had one gripe about our schedule, is the fact that there are not many UK friendly tip-offs this season. Like, we've got 5 all season that tip off at 10 p.m. or earlier. So we got, in December, we're at the Nets, which is an 8:30 tip-off on a Sunday night. Home versus the Nets at the end of December, which is also 8:30. Mm-hmm. Saturday, the 1st of February at Utah, 10 p.m. Saturday the 29th of March versus the Kings at 10 p.m. and then the final game of the season against the Hawks at 6 o'clock UK time as well. So, yeah, that's my biggest gripe is...
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair, mate. One other bit that I didn't put on the agenda that's just come to my head, actually. The Magic unveiled a new slogan yesterday, a couple of hours before the schedule dropped, and that is Make It Magic. So that replaces the existing Magic Together. I think it's a tip of the hat to Pat Williams. What do you think of that? Looks all right? I think the badge looks really good, doesn't it?
Copy and Let's Talk Magic, aren't they?
It looks a bit similar, doesn't it? But yeah. But obviously, we spoke about this before. Gary tracks. What's the gentleman on Twitter called?
Which one?
The one who tracks. The one who tracks the jerseys, mate.
Casey Vitelli.
That's the one. That's the one. So obviously, he keeps tabs of what jerseys have been announced, and the Magic will be rocking the white. What's that, the association?
The white and the black.
And the black one next season, but the blue one hasn't been confirmed as yet, or we haven't seen any press releases. So just wonder, might they do something? We don't know. We're just purely speculating. Obviously, the font on this logo with the star as the A on the Magic, just got us thinking a little bit. We might see something, we might not. So we shall see. Any thoughts on that?
All I'll say is I would be really surprised. And I've said this before, and I've got no inside knowledge on this, but I think we're pretty much locked on for a White City Edition jersey of what we've had already. And I think the blue jersey with the black pins will come back.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Which is the best of the three that we got anyway.
Yeah.
So before we end this week's show, we just want to say a big thank you to all our patrons for your support. If you'd like to join our Patreon, please visit patreon.com/Let's Talk Magic. So that's going to do it for this week. Thank you for listening and watching. If you enjoyed today's episode, please give it a thumbs up. Leave us your thoughts and questions, and don't forget to subscribe. You can also like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, TikTok and X, or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, all at _Let's Talk Magic. So from Mikey, Gary, Paul, who's away, and myself, until next week, go Magic.